On Friday, October 13, 1307, the Knights Templar were arrested across France in a single night. Not because they were defeated in battle, not because they lost their faith, but because someone spoke. The official records blame heresy. The king blamed greed. The church claimed obedience. But medieval whispers tell a different story. Of a Templar who broke his vow, a woman who listened, and a secret that traveled from a private chamber to the throne of France. So the question remains, was the most powerful military order in Europe destroyed by politics, or by a forbidden love that was never meant to exist? Paris, autumn of 1307. The city slept beneath stone towers and cathedral bells, unaware that history was about to be rewritten before dawn. The Knights Templar had no reason to fear that night. For nearly 2 centuries, they had survived wars, crusades, kings, and betrayals. They answered only to the Pope. They guarded pilgrims, financed monarchs, and moved gold across Europe with a precision no kingdom could match. To many, they seemed untouchable. But power attracts envy, and secrets attract hunters. Within the walls of the Temple fortress in Paris, one knight stood apart from his brothers. His name is lost to official records, erased like so many others, but chronicles hint at a man trusted with messages, not swords. A man who crossed paths with the royal court. A man sworn to vows older than the kingdom itself, poverty, obedience, and chastity. And yet, somewhere beyond the torchlit corridors of the fortress, beyond the prayers and discipline, lived a woman who did not belong to his world. She moved through the royal court with grace and silence, a noblewoman close to power, close to whispers, close to dangerous truths. Kings noticed her presence. Cardinals trusted her discretion. And when Templars were invited to speak with the crown, she listened. History confirms that King Philip IV of France was drowning in debt, much of it owed to the Templars. It confirms that the church feared their independence. It confirms that plans were set in motion long before the arrests. What history does not confirm is how deeply the Templars were watched. In the shadows between chapel and court, between vow and desire, a fragile connection formed. Not yet betrayal, not yet love, but something far more dangerous, trust. And while Paris slept, sealed letters were already moving through the night. By morning, the fate of the Templars would be decided. Their meetings were never planned. At least, that is how it began. When the Templars were summoned to the royal court, it was never a simple visit. Messages were exchanged in guarded halls. Words were chosen carefully. Every sentence carried weight, and every silence was observed. She was always nearby, a presence more than a participant. A noblewoman tasked with observing, remembering, and reporting what others dismissed as harmless conversation. In a court ruled by suspicion, listening was power. The knight noticed her not because she sought attention, but because she avoided it. While others spoke loudly, she remained still. While courtiers argued, she watched. And when questions were asked of the Templars about finances, alliances, distant commanderies, her eyes followed every reaction. It was here, among marble columns and hanging tapestries, that their paths truly crossed. A glance held a moment too long. A question answered too openly. A name spoken where silence would have been safer. The Templar did not speak of secrets. Not directly. But even the smallest truths could be dangerous in the wrong hands. A passing comment about gold moved through Paris. A mention of distant brothers. A reassurance meant to calm royal nerves. She listened. And she remembered. History records that royal agents were gathering information months before the arrests. It records interrogations prepared in advance, accusations written before confessions existed. What it does not record is how detailed that knowledge was, or how it was obtained. Between chapel and chamber, between stone armor and silk gowns, something fragile formed. Not love, not yet, but familiarity. And familiarity is how walls fall. Unbeknownst to the knight, others had begun to watch him as well. Court eyes, church eyes, and eyes that served the crown above all else. By the time he realized he was no longer just a messenger, the game had already changed. Because in Paris, every whisper eventually finds its way to the throne. The Templar had been trained to endure pain, hunger, and fear. What he had never been trained for was doubt. Each prayer now carried hesitation. Each vow echoed louder than before. Chastity was not merely a rule of the order, it was a shield. A way to remain unreachable, uncontaminated by leverage. And yet, without ever touching her, without ever speaking what should not be spoken, he felt that shield weakening. They met less often. But when they did, the air between them grew heavier. She began to ask questions that sounded innocent. Questions any loyal servant of the crown might ask. How many brothers were stationed outside Paris? Who controlled the treasury? How often messages were sent to Rome? He answered carefully, convinced he was revealing nothing of value. He was wrong. Facts, when assembled by the right hands, become weapons. Historical records confirm that by early 1307, accusations against the Templars were already finalized, charges of heresy, blasphemy, and corruption. Confessions were expected before arrests even occurred. Someone had mapped the order from the inside. The knight sensed the change too late. Faces at court grew colder. Invitations became interrogations. Even within the temple fortress, brothers noticed unfamiliar glances, unfamiliar silences. Trust, the foundation of the order, began to fracture. She, too, was changing. Her words grew cautious. Her presence less frequent. And once, in the flicker of candlelight, he saw fear where curiosity had once lived. Fear of something she could no longer control. He wanted to warn her. To pull away. To retreat behind stone walls and prayer. But vows, once bent, rarely returned to their original shape. Unknown to both of them, royal orders were already sealed. Church officials were prepared. Names were written. Doors marked. And somewhere in Paris, bells waited for the signal. The fall of the Templars would not begin with swords, but with silence. Power rarely moves in public. It moves behind closed doors, sealed with silence and necessity. King Philip IV of France had reached the limits of his authority. His wars were expensive. His treasury was empty. And his greatest creditor was no foreign enemy, but the Knights Templar themselves. An order rich in land, gold, and influence, answering not to the crown, but to Rome. The solution did not come from the battlefield. It came from agreement. Historical records confirm secret meetings between the French crown and high-ranking church officials in the months before October 1307. Accusations were prepared. Confessions anticipated. Papal resistance weakened through pressure and persuasion. What history does not record is the human cost of those decisions. She stood at the edge of power when the final understanding was reached. Not as a ruler. Not as a conspirator. But as someone who had spoken too freely, listened too closely, and been trusted by the wrong people. When the cardinal and the king sealed their pact, she understood, not everything, but enough. Enough to realize that the questions she had asked, the details she had repeated, the moments she had considered harmless, had been woven into a net large enough to destroy an order. There would be no trials in the open. No chance to defend vows or truth. Only arrests. Confessions extracted. Names erased. She tried to withdraw, to silence herself, to disappear from the courtly corridors that now felt hostile and watched. But the machine had already begun to turn. And machines do not stop for regret. That same night, sealed orders were copied by hand. Lists of commanderies, routes, names of brothers, timetables synchronized across France. The knight would never see those papers. He would only hear the bells. And when they rang, he would understand, too late, that love had not destroyed the Templars. Information had. The bells began before dawn. At first, they sounded like prayer, distant, measured, almost peaceful. But as their echoes multiplied across Paris, the sound changed. It became urgent, commanding, unavoidable. Friday, October 13th, 1307. Royal guards moved through the streets with sealed orders and drawn steel. No warnings. No explanations. Doors were broken. Brothers were seized in their sleep. Chains replaced vows. Questions replaced prayers. Inside the temple fortress, confusion spread faster than fear. The Templars had faced enemies on foreign soil, but never this, arrest by their own king, under the symbol of the cross they had sworn to protect. The night was taken without resistance. Discipline demanded silence. Obedience demanded acceptance. Yet as iron closed around his wrists, one thought burned louder than the bells. Her! Across the city, she watched the arrests unfold from a distance. Cloaked among servants and courtiers, she recognized the precision, the coordination, the certainty. This was not reaction. This was execution. For the first time, she understood the scale of what had been unleashed. The order would not be questioned. It would be dismantled. And everyone connected to it would be erased or broken. Later, in the torchlit corridors of a prison, their eyes met once more. No words passed between them. None were needed. In that moment, neither spoke of betrayal nor innocence. Only of consequences. He did not curse her. He did not plead. He simply lowered his head, as if accepting a verdict written long before either of them met. By nightfall, confessions would begin. Under pain, under threat, under silence. And Paris would pretend it had always known the truth. Truth did not matter anymore. Only obedience. In the days that followed the arrests, prisons filled faster than answers. The charges were read aloud: heresy, blasphemy, denial of Christ. Accusations so severe that denial itself became proof of guilt. Under torture, men confessed to anything. Historical records confirm what followed: beatings, isolation, fire, and fear. Knights who had never broken under battle broke under pain. Words were spoken not because they were true, but because silence had become unbearable. The knight endured longer than most. He repeated prayers. He repeated his vows. But even faith has limits when flesh is tested beyond reason. Eventually, his voice failed him. The confessions were written, copied, and distributed as justification. The crown needed proof. The church needed submission. And both were satisfied. She vanished during those weeks. Her name does not appear in trial transcripts. No accusation was brought against her. No reward recorded. No punishment issued. She simply faded from the court's corridors and the margins of history. This absence is telling. Those who are truly guilty are often named. Those who are truly useful are protected. Whether she acted knowingly or blindly, no document confirms. Whether she loved him or feared the forces around her remains unanswered. But her silence after the arrests speaks louder than any confession extracted in chains. By the time the Pope was pressured into dissolving the order, the damage was irreversible. The Templars were no longer warriors or bankers. They were prisoners of a narrative written by others. And somewhere beyond prison walls, a woman lived with knowledge that could no longer save anyone. History would remember the crime, but not the voice that helped shape it. The Knights Templar did not disappear in a single night. They faded slowly, through trials, forced confessions, and years of imprisonment. Some were burned. Some died forgotten. And in 1314, when the last Grand Master Jacques de Molay was executed, the order ended in flame and smoke. Or so history claims. What followed was redistribution. Lands seized. Gold absorbed. Debts erased. Power relined. The question that survives is not whether the Templars were guilty. History has already answered that in whispers rather than certainty. The question is how easily they were destroyed. Not by armies. Not by heresy. But by information. The knight's name is gone. Reduced to a confession signed under pain. His vows, once sacred, were rewritten by others. His faith judged by men who feared what they could not control. And the woman? She remains a shadow between records. Neither condemned nor honored. Neither heroine nor villain. Perhaps she believed she was serving God. Perhaps she believed she was protecting the realm. Perhaps she simply trusted the wrong people. Or perhaps she loved a man she was never allowed to love. History offers no verdict. Because history is written by those who survive power, not those crushed beneath it. So when we ask whether lovers destroyed the Templars, we ask the wrong question. The real question is this: how many empires have fallen not because of sin, but because someone listened? Someone spoke. And someone else was ready to use the truth as a weapon? That answer, like the woman's name, remains buried. And perhaps it always will.